встречаемся. Пару буквально слов по Билалу. Он работает, группа называется Lux Ventures. И это очень редкая группа, и это будет больше fireside chat формате, который редко в том числе, как, вы, может быть, знаете, venture себе позволяет где-то 5-7 лет. Им надо эти деньги получить обратно, которые инвестируют, да, чтобы купить и вернуть деньги своим LP. Lux Capital один из редких, их немного, которые имеют намного дольше horizon. То есть они могут вернуть свои деньги своим инвесторам, которые они заработают от своих инвестиций намного дольше. 7, 8, 10, 15 лет у них дольше горизонт. То есть он будет говорить о deep technologies. Это им позволяет инвестировать в более глубоких технологий. Мы с ним работаем сейчас по VTOL, Vertical Takeoff and Landing Vehicles, один из его интересов. Но он позволяет себе вот в такие более глубокие, тяжелые технологии, которые долгое время разрабатываются. Да? То есть он об этом расскажет, о своем тезисе Lux Capital, и в том числе место и будущее VR и AR. Это наша тема сегодняшнего дня. VLAB, как вы, наверное, знаете, это организация предпринимателей MIT и Стэнфорда, которые мы там с ними работаем в Кремниевой долине, на Бороде сидим. Также их темы, не все, но некоторые, которые мы чувствуем, вот прямо очень интересные. Резонанс, такой cutting-edge трендовые здесь представляем. Вот с такими связями и с нашими великолепными гостями из России. So let's start in, let's dive in, and let's talk to Bilal. We'll have about 15 minutes fireside chat, and then 15 minutes we open it up. So prepare some questions. And if you have trouble with English, we'll do the best we can. Мы попробуем теперь вовремя, но великолепный переводчик тем более. То есть надо пару слов.
Друзья, да, у нас с нами на всех вилабах наш любимый стартап Спикас, Ислам Мусин.
Всем привет.
Да.
Татьяна много раз уже писала, если кому-то нужен синхронный перевод с английского на русский, вы можете установить app Спикас, отсканировать QR, либо ввести шестизначный код, и у вас будет онлайн профессиональный переводчик переводить выступление Билала.
Вау.
Круто. Это буквально там вам 2 минуты установить и ввести 6 цифр. Все.
Наш код I love Yellow Door. Yellow Door это без I. Просто love Yellow Door. Все love Yellow Door.
Если кому-то, да, Wi-Fi нужен, вот он. Yellow Door, love Yellow Door.
И мы ищем iOS или Android Speak.
Speak
Us. S-P-E-A-K-U-S или QR-код. QR-код где можно найти?
QR-код на стойке там и вот здесь.
И вот здесь. Кому надо QR-код быстренько? Кто хочет попробовать? Скорее всего, я думаю, люди будут сейчас приходить, и мы будем это сканировать. Okay, without further ado, let's talk to Bilal.
Можно попросить, когда откроется микрофон, щелк.
Do you want to turn the camera at all, or so he can see us a little bit? Bilal, good morning. How are you?
Morning, how are you?
Great, great. Let me see if I can connect our, so we can get our speakers going. So LG soundbar, right? Give us just another 30 seconds here. It looks like it's coming out of our local speakers here. I'm going to adjust the speakers over there. Or maybe I'm worried about restarting Skype. But if you want to go into, let's try here. System preferences. That. System preference, I need to go into, where's that go on? So here, system preferences into sound, and yeah, it's internal mic, output, mileage, player. Prepared to go. You want to? I'm worried about restarting. There's no ports. All right, sorry, Bilal. Just a few moments. Restarted. Try the sound now, maybe it'll work. If we start the Skype, I don't want to jerk in and out. It's good now, right? We'll keep our fingers crossed. All right, Bilal, we're live finally. So I hope you can hear us. Okay, yeah, we can hear us as well.
Can you guys hear me?
We can, yes. I think we can. Now, Bilal, we've met and you've done amazing work in VR, AR. We actually met in Dallas at the Uber conference as well. And we have a group, and it's slowly gathering because it's Moscow now. People come a little late and there's traffic, and it's a huge city and parking sucks. So people are trickling in bit by bit, but we have, I think, a really interesting core of VR, AR enthusiasts specifically here in VLAB style in our small underground kind of basement here in the very center of the city. So we're very, very excited to have you with us, even for, the 20, 30 minutes that you can spare. It's a huge honor, and I just give you a forewarning, we'll try to do a little bit of synchronous translation, but I know you get really excited and you talk really fast. So I'm just warning you all, Bilal's amazing, there's a lot to say, and he's a fast talker, so get ready. A lot of us, I think English is fine, but for some of us, we're going to be trying to figure out the translation kind of in real time, so be merciful.
Okay, I'll try to go slow.
Okay, awesome. Anyway, it's just an incredible honor to have you with us. Lux is doing amazing work, and we've talked about how rare your perspective is these days in Silicon Valley, enabling you to participate more in deep technology plays. But would you mind starting off with just a few words about the fund and your work, the kind of technologies you look at? And I'll see if I can maybe even throw things up on the wall here as you talk. So, and I've turned the camera a little bit so you can see the audience, but you'll see a piece of us anyway, hopefully. Yeah. So here we
Hey
are.
guys, I see a little sniper for you.
Awesome.
That's great.
Awesome.
Awesome. So, and if you have trouble hearing and understanding me, just raise your arm. Even my parents have a hard time understanding me sometimes. So my name is Bilal Zuberi. I'm a partner at a firm called Lux Capital. I'm based in Menlo Park, just sort of the heart of Silicon Valley in some ways, and half of my team is based here on the west coast of the United States, and the other half is based in New York City. We manage close to $1.4 billion and invest in early stage technology companies. That typically means for us investing either at the forming stage of the company, so where the company is literally two guys and a dog and an idea on a PowerPoint, to all the way to companies that have had product in the market with some early product market fit and early traction. Early stage investing, generally across the board, regardless of the sector you invest in, means you taking a leap of faith. An investor has to believe in the team, the technology, and the market ahead of having enough data in the marketplace. And what that also means is that the investor investing at that early needs to in some ways be smarter than the average investor. They almost need to be mentally prepared so that when the next big idea, that could be the next Facebook, Snapchat, Tesla, SpaceX comes around, you're able to identify that early. The areas that I invest in, or my firm invests in, we call it deep tech. And by deep tech we mean companies that we invest in traditionally have some core technology innovation in either science or engineering that is hard to for others to copy. So the spaces that you will go into, you will have 2, 3, 4, 5 competitors, but not 20 competitors. So you're not going to have an app that you create that 2 kids sitting in a university in Russia can copy in overnight and put it out there. That's a very hard industry to get into, and frankly, very hard industry to scale. And we can talk about some of those kinds of companies as well. But when we invest in companies, we think there's something fundamentally changing in how technology enables and works in humans' lives, and we invest around them. We did everything from satellites to robots to drones to automation to to AR, to a lot of variety in computational imaging. And I think some of those areas are probably most relevant to you guys, and I'm happy to talk about that. Both lessons learned, things that have worked, things that haven't worked, but also what are some of the opportunities and some of the challenges moving forward.
Great. Well, thank you. It's an extraordinary thing that you do. I mean, not only to invest in deep technology, but of course takes a lot of time to develop, but also to invest in it so early stage. And so maybe a couple questions that I'll maybe pose that may be addressable to everybody. Now, of course, Russia is renowned for great engineering, really deep technology. The institutes are coming out fantastic technologists. The challenge with us, as perhaps it is around the world, but perhaps here even more, is that it takes a certain vision, it takes a certain mindset to translate a lab or a laboratory kind of thesis, right, into a product, into something that's commercially viable, into something that people need or would want to pay money for, perhaps a corporate would want. Could you talk a little bit about how you evaluate startups? Maybe just kind of give us a simple overview. Okay, so there's deep technology. It's definitely defensible. It maybe has patents. It's not something that two guys, in an apartment and a dog can piece together in a weekend, right? What's the next steps? I mean, do you look at, do they have product market fit already established, or do you kind of envisage something for them already?
Yeah, so look, let me talk about several different types of, let me give you two different kinds of companies, and then we'll answer that in that context.
Sure.
One example of a deep technology company could be a company that has real hardware that they're building, which is proprietary technology. So some proprietary sensor could be all the way to the semiconductors that is utilized for, either 3D capture or some kind of other multispectral capture or something else that you can literally have multiple patents around. And that's your core IP. In those kinds of companies, my guess is that when you go and speak to an investor to be able to take this forward, you don't have a lot of product market traction.
Yeah.
You may have invented that maybe in your backyard, but more likely you're working at a university and this came out of there, or working with the research institute and came out of there. The second kind of company would be, for example, utilizing depth sensors that are now becoming available, and using that to capture data and analyze data in a particular format. You have algorithmic work done to be able to do real-time three-dimension analysis on a mobile chip, for example, low power, low latency, and you figured out how to do that, and very important for AR.
Okay.
In which case, you can have more, you could probably start getting early customer traction before you reach out to venture capitalists.
Okay.
Now, here's what the VCs look for. There are 5 broad things that people are looking for. Number 1 is the team. Is the team such that they are able to create a real business around it? Do they understand what it means to create a business? There's a lot of ups and downs that come with it. Will they charge through and work through that? And will they pull all the necessary resources that are required to make that happen? This is, I think, you will find Silicon Valley talking the most about. Right? This is the difference between Mark Zuckerberg and every other person that had a social network idea. There was something different about the kind of guy and the team that Mark Zuckerberg had around him. This is the difference between, the WhatsApp founders and tons of other, texting apps that got created. This is what Silicon Valley really focuses on, and I'm sure we can talk for an hour about this too. The second thing people look for is product and technology. Is this real? Is this defensible? And is this really done? There's a lot of people who think that if you've just hacked together something, then you probably have a great idea. That's not true. Let me be the first one to tell you, if I am, that ideas are dime a dozen. Okay? Everybody has good ideas. Everybody sitting in that room is probably really smart, and probably if they went home and took a whiteboard, would come up with 25 ideas that they think each can be $1 billion business. Right? They wouldn't know how to create that $1 billion business. They wouldn't know necessarily, what are the requirements that are needed for that idea to be implemented in real life, but you will have good ideas. The important thing is, you understand how to translate that idea and that technology into a product. Product is something that has customers associated with it that you can point to, and customers would be willing to pay for it in some way or the other. The third thing to look for is market. Is the market really, really large? If your market is southern Siberia, it may be really interesting to you,
Yeah.
but it's a very, very small market. Frankly, even if your market is the United States, it might be a small market, right? And this is really interesting about Silicon Valley. Most Silicon Valley companies, when they start off, they don't go global, they don't start marketing, in China and Russia and Africa. But, in fact, Silicon Valley VCs don't even invest very much in companies outside of Silicon Valley, right? Outside of a 50-mile radius of San Francisco, right? However, almost all companies right at the beginning have a global ambition. So the way they're setting it up is that they will want that business to be a global business.
Okay.
So Facebook, when it started, was started as colleges, universities, right, and then scaled from there.
Right.
But it was very clear that their idea was that if you're at a university, you might be an international student, and if you're an international student, then your school friends are actually friends from outside the US, and hence very quickly this will become an international network.
Yeah.
And they think differently about that.
Yeah.
The fourth thing that they look for is how much capital will this take, and can that industry and can that space support that? If you're starting a new kind of Tesla, you probably need to know how to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And companies are doing that. Silicon Valley is awash with companies right now that are creating new automotive companies that are 100% autonomous and so on, and they're raising very large amounts of capital. But those companies are going after markets that are $1 trillion in sizes. Okay, but if you're starting let's say a company like I invested in called Orgspace, right, which is virtual reality social network, you cannot be a company that needs $20 million to $50 million before you start getting any real traction, commercially speaking.
Right.
If that happens, you run into a problem. And frankly, Orgspace ran into a problem.
Right.
Now, fifth thing is, and the last thing is, that as investors, we build it, we invest in companies to help build, so that it can be bought at a very high value down the road.
Yeah.
So there are certain kinds of companies that get high valuation, and certain kind of companies that don't. If you have a services company, if you have engagement rates that are low, if you have a consumer base that is hard to monetize, then you will not get rewarded. Right? So you may put in 5, 6, 10 years of your life building it, but still not get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
Remember, the math for Silicon Valley investors is very simple. I'm investing, if I just take a rough number, a $500 million fund, right? For me to be qualified as a good investor, I need to return $1.5 billion or more to my investors. If I own 20% in every company that I invested in, I need to generate roughly $6 billion or more of enterprise value, right? So if I invest in 20 companies out of a fund, because I'm going to invest $20 to $30 million per company, I've got 20 companies. The sum total of the value of those 20 companies needs to be $6 billion. So the math doesn't really work unless you're hitting or you're shooting for big ideas. And the big ideas, you don't know where they're going to come from. It's easy to say, let's go to Mars or let's make a space satellite or rocket, but nobody would have guessed WhatsApp would be worth what it is worth. It's just a texting app, or Instagram would be bought out before a single dollar of revenue for $1 million. So big ideas can come from anywhere, but the entrepreneurs need to have that mentality of hardware is hard, software is just as hard, let's build a company that is worth building.
Yeah. Bilal, that's a great kind of 10-minute overview. I don't want to spend too much time, but we'd like to suggest that some great ideas are coming out of here in Russia. And in fact, I think you'll meet a couple of them, space starts, and you've talked to one of our VTOL startups as well. So some really big ideas, and I think many more here in this room today. I wanted to ask maybe one last question more focused on VR, AR, and then turn it over to questions from the audience. So I just wanted to kind of split it half, if that's okay. And you mentioned VR. I mean, we're here about VR and AR, and you mentioned actually one of your portfolio startups, which is the kind of a social network, virtual, kind of a VR social network. So is there a favorite? Maybe that's the one. Is there a favorite kind of VR AR case study that you're working on that's just really exciting? You're really making your heart beat. And why? What do you see in that space? What's happening?
Yeah. So look, we have maybe a dozen or so companies that one could argue are connected to VR AR. I use the example of AltSpace because AltSpace is a company building out a social network on virtual reality. It was a different way of thinking about Second Life. When you have a company like that, when your idea is that, hey, everybody's going to have virtual reality and we're going to talk to each other and we're going to communicate with each other and we're going to share screens with each other and maybe play games together, the problem you need to be able to overcome is have sufficient liquidity, meaning there should be enough people for that network to be always alive. And so the edge computing is really, really interesting. The last thing I'd say that's happening in this space is, data is again becoming very powerful. So we have a company called Matterport. Matterport captures indoor 3D scans of spaces. This company is doing close to $50 million in revenue. It's a few years old. All our real estate selling is going online. This company has completely sort of taken over that real estate industry where you and I can go into a house no longer to walk around physically to buy a house, but we can actually do a virtual reality tour. We can walk around, feels like we're walking in the house. We can substitute furniture for the furniture that we have, so we can see how it will look for us.
Yeah.
A house, when you go in to buy a house, it's empty. You have to imagine what it might look like for you.
Yeah.
And it is the single largest purchase any of us ever make in our lifetime.
Right.
Okay? So you can change that completely, where I can not just imagine, I can literally put my stuff in there and see what it feels like. I can spend a day in there to see, if I wake up in the morning, I'll go here, make my coffee, will this look good? Oh, I'll have a view of the garden outside, that's nice. I think that imagination becoming real is what's really important in AR and VR. And I think the new generation is realizing that the sensors are becoming so ubiquitous and so common that it's no longer about the technology. It's about utilizing that technology to create data layers that can be exploited by commercial endeavors.
Yeah, fantastic. We have a startup in that space coming out of Moscow that we'll treat you with, and it's I think real estate, of course, is kind of a classic VR AR space. I think you'd agree, and that's kind of a virtual tour. It is the biggest purchase, and if you allow just literally 10 seconds, Bilal, it's Matterport, it's called, right? Matterport. Это такой классика жанра, где сканируются внутренности любой, и они реконструируются в 3D модели. То есть можно вступить в квартиру, можно пройти в ней, можно это классика жанра, да, для VR. Можно свои диваны, свои подушки, свои картины туда выставить. 3 минуты, да, выставить, и можно посмотреть, как смотрится, а может посмотреть вид из окошка, может там чашку кофе выпить, все VR, да, то есть это классика жанра, и я думаю, у нас есть один стартап, дай бог, сейчас интенсивно начинается в понедельник, Stay Tuned, который вот в этом направлении играет, это классика жанра прямо, то есть они инвестиции, но это не сама реконструкция, это камера, которая сканирует внутри, то есть автоматически, да, и реконструирует в 3D. I'm gonna, I promised...
exactly, 100% what he said, I 100%.
Let's turn it over to the audience, and I'm sorry, it's so exciting, Bilal, we could talk forever, but I hope you've created some questions, and if you have trouble with English, we'll be very glad to вам переведем, поможем, если что. So come on up, it's a rare chance to ask directly to this extraordinary venture guy and thinker and everything. Come on up, давай. Please, present yourselves and ask your questions straight to Bilal.
Okay, hello Bilal, my name is Alex. I'm founder of a company that focused on HoloLens here in Russia. And I have a question. I started my business 1.5 years ago because I believe that in 5 or 7 years everybody will go on with AR glasses, yeah? And I believe that AR glasses will disrupt everything. It will be a fourth generation how we interact with information. So, what do you think? My dreams are come true that in 5-7 years everybody will go in head-mounted AR glasses.
So I think you're directionally 100% right.
Yes.
I don't know if everybody will walk around with head-mounted gear, but I think we will have a second layer of data in front of what we are seeing today. So whether it is, something like a Google Glass equivalent, which looks like an ordinary piece of glass eyeglasses like I'm wearing, but it has a data screen that it's reflecting onto my system. Or it's something like a Magically, which is a much bigger device right now that's projecting onto my retinas. Or it is an embedded implant. Think of like a contact lens in your eye that's low power, but a screen that can actually sort of position data in front of me so I can capture it with my own retinas. I think it is absolutely 100% possible. In fact, it's not just possible; it is almost necessary. We have the saying, right? Necessity is the mother of all invention. Right? You almost need something, and then good people go out and invent it. Right? I think we're seeing that need now. Like, I'm meeting you, I'm having a conversation with you, but my guess is that you will forget me and I will forget you maybe a few days from now. Right? You won't remember me. So if I was walking in the streets of Moscow, you may not remember who I am. You want a data layer to be able to tell you that all the people walking in front of you, who they